Welcome to a special live holiday episode of Legends of Lemp. We are so glad you could join us, and this is it's quite a setup, so we're trying to make sure that we see you chatting with us, but the idea is we can answer your questions. Please have some, that'd be really nice. That would make this show go a whole lot better if you actually could ask us some questions. We'll give you some updates on the house. We'll tell you about the future, our future plans for the house. Nicki, you're going to do a little bit of cleaning on Medallion, and we'll hopefully get some questions during that period of time. We're going to take some longer beers, right?
Yeah.
So, cheers.
Cheers.
Right on. You can drink. I'm going to keep talking.
Uh-huh.
And so many other things we have planned for you this evening. We're really happy to show you some of this stuff. So, join us live for Legends of Lemp. So we bought a house, an 1879 mansion in desperate need of love with a legendary and unique history and a community to match. This is the story of our house and the Legends of Lemp. Hey, welcome back. Okay, so first of all, I need to tell you a couple little things going on here. We've got quite the setup, lots of technology strung together, and Megan has the questions. So we're trying to read your chat, but the way this is set up, it's a little tough for us to see, especially with these old eyes. I had some spectacles on.
I moved them.
Oh, you moved my spectacles? Okay. Well, now I can't see anything, so I'm totally blind, and it'd be nice to know where you're but anyway. So so my spectacles are gone, and right. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Right on. Okay, I've got some spectacles here, but even if I put those on, I still can't read that little tiny chat, right? So, anywho, we've got a little workaround. Megan's going to read the chat. Megan's got the chat. She has it locked down right over there. And she's going to yell out the questions if you have any good questions for us. Now, notice I qualified it as good questions. They have to be good. All right? Seriously. Keep them good.
Only good, pertinent questions. Nothing abstract or ridiculous.
Yeah, nothing too vague. No trolling. If we get any trolling, you're out. Out. Okay.
Not that anyone would do that.
Right. We don't know any trolls. And if we do know trolls, they're our friends now. So, okay. Right, so anyway, the way this will work is we'll stop and answer any questions. So we're going to roll through some of the stuff that we have, but we're really hoping that some questions come through that we can kind of divert, because honestly, we've got a few pages of content, and I think it's really good stuff. You're going to want to see it. Stick around for it. But we would love to divert the program for your programming.
Well, so this isn't a normal live. This isn't a normal Q&A. What we're going to be doing, we actually have some stuff planned for everybody here. Yeah. So it's not just a normal where we sit here and we answer any questions. We actually have, we have a lager tasting. We have a little bit of picking on the Medallion. We have
right. Like we just didn't want to sit there, we want to have some things planned. That's us.
It's like the Christmas special.
Right, exactly. You got to push the limit a little bit.
And we already have some questions.
Oh, we got some. Thank you.
So I'm going to ask the first few, which was, is the beer limp?
Okay. Wait, let's set up the beer here.
So the beer is not from Lemp. Unfortunately, Lemp no longer produces beer. I want to say Falstaff was the last beer that was produced until 1997, and that was because of the Greasy Dicks. So Lemp started Falstaff, then they sold it to the Greasy Dicks before Billy Lemp passed on, and then the Greasy Dicks continued it on until about 1997.
Right on. But what we have today is a St. Louis beer. It is a St. Louis beer. It is called Zwickel. It's a Bavarian style lager, and it is made by Urban Chestnut, which is a local St. Louis brewery. So, we're going to start out with with a local St. Louis brewery lager. And now I am gonna give you some tasting notes. Everybody's gonna need to give some tasting notes here. Oh, by the way, I do need to tell you about the situation here. This whole crew is doing this on our time, like on our personal time. So there are kids playing. All of our children are up above us.
This is Matt's personal home.
Yeah, it's our house. Like this is my house.
This is his legit like mantle and fireplace, and so the kids are upstairs playing. So you may randomly hear a loud thud. I promise everybody's okay. You will
I don't
probably
promise. I don't know if they're okay.
They're fine. They're fine.
Riley said a vase fell and she's really sorry.
Yeah, good. Okay, Riley's really sorry.
Riley is CPR trained, so she's good to go. There will be also street noises. So this Cherokee Street is right outside this window here as well. So hopefully we don't hear any skidding and then thuds.
Well, if we do, it'll make it an interesting show.
Because my car's parked out here, so I don't know when it gets into it. But yeah, so Zwickel is one that I like to drink. I like it with some hot wings at Milo's, if you've ever been on the hill.
Oh man, Milo's wings. It's the best.
It's great. So this one's a cloudy. It's not a very clear lager.
Right. So less filtered.
Yeah, so less filtered. I would say it has kind of more of that like that lemon rind feel, so it's a bit more bitter.
I got acidity, I agree, a little acidity. A lot of hops.
A little florally.
Here's
so
my
yeah,
here's my feedback. Okay. Here's my feedback on American microbrews. Take it or leave it. Okay? I've been around the block. I've had every beer in the world. Honestly, I've been all over the world. I've had all the beers. I started as that guy, let's have some IPAs.
No.
Literally nobody likes an IPA. They just say they do. Okay? It's just a mouthful of bitterness, right? So anyway, my take on American beers is if you've been to Germany and you've had their beers, and just assume they've pretty much not changed it for 1,000 years.
Right.
We overdo it. Always. It's American trait. Like we'll take your food, right? Like you're an Italian, right? No, even better. You're a Lebanese guy, right? And you've been eating hummus for the last 2,000 years. We come along, we grab hummus. We throw pepperoni in it.
We throw pumpkin spice in
Pumpkin spice hummus. We're like, this is the best stuff ever. He's like, what happened to my hummus? That's what we do to beer. We over hop it. We just, I don't know. It's good. I'm not saying it's not good. It's a very good beer.
It's good.
It's just
like
intense.
if you like it a little bit bitter, it's good. It's not an IPA to where it's going to strangle you with bitterness.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
But it's definitely not something that you're going to want to crack open and drink after you've just mowed the lawn. So it's not really it's the middle of the summer, it's a hot day, I've been doing nothing but manual labor and I'm going to drink a beer. It's got more bite to it. It's not as refreshing, it's not as crisp as some other lagers are.
Yeah, so what I think about a lager, I think it's post-lawn mowing beer. Like you've gone through, you've mowed your lawn.
It's the shower beer. It's the beer you drink in the shower after you
I feel like
just
that's a
mowed the lawn.
Midwestern thing. I don't really know about shower beers, but I do know about after lawn mowing, and that's important. Anyway, let's move on. Anyway, that was great.
Beer. We'll
Good
talk
beer.
more about. We have a few selections of beers. We'll talk about those as we go along.
Hopefully, everybody's with us still. Okay.
So we've kind of talked about what we have going on. What's the big news that we've had this week about the YouTube?
Huge news. Like the whole team celebrated it. We went out for half-price pizzas because we're not making a lot of money at this, but we sure did hit our goal. We are now officially YouTube partners, which is a big deal. That means you have to rack up, enough subscribers, 1,000 subscribers. We're way past that. You guys have helped us with that a lot. We're over 1,600 subscribers, and we had to rack up 4,000 watch hours, and that was like climbing Mount Everest. When you start with a few watch hours, and you're like, I don't think we're that interesting. I don't think people are gonna. I really don't feel like people are gonna watch us for 4,000 hours worth of time. We really better up our game here because I don't think it's that compelling. So we tried hard. Obviously, people responded to what we've been doing. The families engaged, which if you watch The Last Brew, we met the Vahlkamps, which, you know, they're not named Vahlkamp necessarily, but
Yeah.
we
Some
met
of them are.
the descendants of Henry Vahlkamp. Yeah, so that
There's
was
Bill.
yeah.
So sweet, and then there's Scott. So Scott is the one that we're really talking about more. He's kind of our main communicator. Bill is the one who has a lot more of the information. There's me, nobody cares about me. So they have, I mean, that picture was amazing. That frame right there that they show is potentially a picture that hung in the Vahlkamp House.
Yeah. Oh wow, we got some questions coming in here at the bottom of the
Okay.
screen. Oh my goodness, Megan's got some questions flowing
So
in
do we
here.
start with why did you start a YouTube channel?
Why did you start a YouTube channel? So who are they asking that? Me? Okay. Yeah.
It's to either of
I
us.
think
It's your house.
that's right. So in my biography, I lay it out. I had a major personal crisis that occurred that drove me to reevaluate a bunch of things in my life. My wife passed away over a year now ago. It was a major crisis that forced me to quit my job as an executive. I was an executive in a international manufacturing company. So I've traveled the world, I've lived around the world, did a lot of important things, and then I couldn't keep up with the travel, and so quit my job and started to cast about for other things to engage in, and bought this house, this 1879 house, and started to do some research on that because we were going to settle down. My kids and I are going to settle down in a house, and we chose that house. I didn't know anything about it.
Well, it was weird. So I helped you purchase the house. I'm
Yeah.
a real estate agent here in St. Louis, and I specialize in historic homes. And I happened to find it on Cheap Old Houses. So I don't know if anyone follows Cheap Old Houses. I love it. It's really bad. I need to get off it because I keep seeing all the houses in Missouri, and I want to buy all of them. And so I said, we were going to go out that day to look for investment properties, and I said, let's just stop in it because it's really cool and I want to see it. So we got in and we looked at it and we walked through it, and I felt like the longer we were there, the longer it felt like it was something that was meant for you. So through the process, it was kind of an interesting process, and we can talk about that more later. You ended up getting the house, but in the meantime, I knew Caleb and I knew John, and so we invited them in to look at the house, and Caleb said, this house already has a following. Like, it's on Cheap Old Houses and it's on Surfer Properties. So have you ever thought about kind of recording the journey? And so that's where I think you started thinking about the idea of doing the YouTube channel.
Exactly. Caleb planted the seed by saying that the house had a following. I'm like, what's that even mean? And so I went out and started to watch, and I think we saw, was it this house? This house.
Yeah.
YouTube
this
channel.
old house or something.
No,
like
it's
that.
this house, because I
Okay.
can't use this old house. That's PBS.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So this house is a YouTube channel, and he actually covered the house. Like, he went in there and did the tour, and then we had Caleb and John over, and we just talked to him about what that would take and what that would be like, and they encouraged us, and said go for it. And I thought it would be worth it to give it a try. We don't know if it'll work. We don't know if the revenues or any sort of money's going to be there, but we've got the passion for it, and
And you were already kind of started working in the documentary business. So at that point, you were kind of transitioning into working on documentaries, and so it kind of seemed like an easy transition in from where you were going into your documentaries into documenting this house.
yeah.
So I think that's kind of where you talked about the YouTube channel, and of course, I could talk for days about houses, so I'm fine with it. Being on camera is still a little bit weird. And listening to myself is a little bit weird on camera too, but I think that's kind of where it had started. Is we already knew that the house had a following, and we were connected to people in the community, so we felt like it needed to keep going. And so there's another one in here about Marvin said something about an 1890s Queen Anne.
Yeah, can we scroll up a little bit?
So Marvin, this house was built at least in 1879. We know Vahlkamp moved into it in 1879. He sometime between March and September, because we know his first wife died in March. Helen died in March, and then by September he had married his second wife. And then they had their Henry and Caroline had their first child in the house in Miami. And Henry is actually noted as being living at the house in the Vahlkamp House, which is this house right now.
Yeah.
And so he's noted in it in the city directory. So we know that the house was built 1879-ish.
Yeah.
Marvin was talking about this house.
This current one. So
this one.
Oh, this one.
Let's talk about this one.
So this one is a mixed-use property. So if I can talk about it, because I helped you
go for it.
Kind of purchase it. It is, I do believe it was built in 1897. Now, if you look at the Compton Dry map, there is actually a house that's on the back part of this property that was built at that time, and you can kind of see the remnants of it from your garage because there's some bricks and stuff. But this is a mixed-use property, so we're on the second floor. The floor below us is currently a salon, but it used to be a saloon, we're thinking. So it used to be a place that you would come and drink. And then you have this floor and then a floor above it.
Yeah, so 3 floors, mixed use property.
Mm-hmm.
It's where we're at right now. Marvin, the idea is to go to the Vahlkamp home, turn around and make this a rental eventually. So this is definitely not where we want to end up, but it's serviceable and perfectly adequate for now.
So the people that you purchased this from actually bought this house and they renovated it. So it was it was falling apart. It was a shell. And so what they did the best that they could. Super sweet people. They did the best that they could to keep everything that's here. So you have exposed brick.
Yeah.
You still have these pocket doors that are right here. So if you've looked at the 360 live that's on Facebook, you can see the pocket doors. But there's not really a lot that's left. You can see the tile and then this ironwork around the fireplace here. This was obviously never a wood burning fireplace. It's not deep enough to have it. This mantle is new. A lot of the woodwork around here is new.
This is not original.
That's not original. This is original.
But this is.
This tile, this brown with the blue in it.
Exactly.
So the owners did the best they could to recoup it. It's got bamboo floor over the original hardwood floors.
Yeah. It's not ideal. I mean, like, I would really prefer the originals, obviously. But I have to assume that it was in really, really bad shape because of the work that the previous owner had to do.
Mm-hmm.
So.
But it seems, I mean, it works. It's a huge space for you and the 2 kids.
It's so great for us 3. It's great. Couldn't ask for more right now. I mean, I could ask more. What I'd like to be in is at the Vahlkamp home, but you know what? That's probably a long way away, given how much work we have to do.
But this one does have a mansard roof on it, so this one, I guess you would call it more of a second empire. And then the building across the street has a mansard on it as well, which is where we got the idea of Mansard Media.
Right, so looking right out this window right here, there's another mansard straight across. Mansard is a roof that's kind of like flat.
It's like
go look it up on Google and see.
With dormers on it. It's really cool. It's awesome. It's second empire.
It's very St. Louis.
If you know Caleb, you know what a mansard roof is.
Yeah, Caleb, right.
So going into that, the next question is from Caleb, where he asks, can I try to mold and cast the piece of trim for your door in silicone?
I just saw Nay Baby chatted. I can't read anything Nay Baby said.
We'll get to it.
But we need to say thanks. Hey, Nay Baby. she's coming back from, some things, some struggles, so.
We love new baby.
Yeah.
So Caleb, can I mold and cast that piece of trim for your door in silicone? Can you do that?
Yeah, of course you can.
Okay.
Why is that even a question?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Caleb.
Well,
go
he's
do it.
asking for the good of the show. Yes, Caleb. That's
Yes,
a good idea. We
yeah.
should get that on video.
So number 4 actually kind of leads us into the second thing that we wanted to talk about with the house, right? Which is, when are the trades starting?
Right.
So trades have kind of already started. So you guys, if you have been following the story, you know that we have electric. So there is the actual panel on the house, and then also the auxiliary dwelling unit, so the carriage house. So the carriage house has its own electrical panel, as well as the main house. So that has it. There are like 4 outlets, maybe only 2 outlets in the main house.
Yeah, I'm
and
just
then
reading
also
this.
the carriage
Marvin's
house.
right. This isn't the 1800s. This is the early 1900s. Marvin, this is early 1900s.
I do believe the deed has it in 1897.
Yeah, but I think we established, we can talk about later. I think Marvin is debatable.
Okay.
Because the city records have it as 1897.
Which
but-
was a year that, like, kind of anything
But
before
dude,
that.
everything was 1897 because that's a default year in the system.
There
in many
was,
cases.
the problem I think is that there was a house originally on this property, and
Yeah.
it has been since torn down, and then they built this property on it as
Right,
well.
so exactly. Thank you.
So what's happening with the house is, I think, what everyone wants to know. So in terms of trades, there's electric that's run to the house. There is now a new sewer lateral. So you no longer have the giant sinkhole in the backyard.
New sewer.
Yeah, so brand new sewer, which is a big problem here in St. Louis. Any older home has clay or cast iron pipe, which
Yeah, let's go to
deteriorates.
let's go through the state of the house.
Yeah.
Let's talk about everything that we have listed here. So, what have we accomplished since we started?
Oh,
We've done
from the
a roof.
beginning. So since you purchased the house.
Yeah, we've done demo, we've shown you that. But we have not shown you, that's some of the demo team there.
This is
Um,
great.
Taking one of the old units off the top.
That was a day. We had multiple trades in.
It was a crazy, crazy day. We were very careful when we threw that off the roof, I can promise you that. We did some gutter work, so we replaced the gutters, all but the very, very front gutter that is a wooden box gutter it's a copper line wooden box gutter in the front that we'll talk about in a second
Yeah.
with the cornice.
So you have
But new gutters.
3 new roofs.
Yeah, 3 new roofs, all PTO.
No,
I'm sorry, 2. They were PTO.
There are 2 PTO roofs. So the way that this house is done is that you have a shingled roof over the front half of the house. You can't really see it because of the cornice. So you have a shingled roof, and then you have a TPO, which is kind of over where the primary suite, and then where we'll say the dining room and the kitchen are on the first floor. And that leads into a TPO that goes over the carriage house as well. So it's really like 3 new roofs that have gone into this.
Huge amount of roofing.
Right, so then you have your regular asphalt shingles, and then you have a plastic membrane that goes over the flat parts.
Right.
And
That's
then
what TPO is. It's the
Right.
white stuff.
I forget what the phrase is. It has something chemistry related to do with it.
It's a very it's like rubbery
Yeah,
tarp sort
Yeah.
of stuff.
it's a really heavy duty tarp. So
Yeah.
then that goes into the gutter system, which luckily at the beginning of this project we knew the sewer had slipped and created a sinkhole because the downspouts were going into that old sewer. So we had those redirected at first. The new gutters go into that, so we shouldn't have any more water problems in the house. So with that is a new sewer lateral,
Yep.
which is all PVC pipe. You get the great 6-inch S&D pipe. It's really not sexy to talk about,
Nope.
but I love it personally. I love me a
It's-
good old 6-inch
I gotta tell you, that
S&D.
was the least exciting money I've ever spent.
You're never gonna see it, but
It's
you're
a
really
sewer-
gonna
It's
appreciate
a
it
sewer lateral.
when your sewer doesn't back up.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm glad we did it.
So you have sewer, you have electric, you have water run to the house.
New water service run into the house.
So new water service.
We have some
And then recently, last week, didn't you get a delivery of some storm windows?
We did. We got some storm windows from Matthew. So, yeah.
Matthew Rayland, he is such a sweetie.
Matthew is the star window guy. He
I consider him like the Harry Connick Jr. of windows.
do you?
I think he has such a way of talking about windows. Like,
He's got that southern drawl.
he does. I imagine him talking about historic windows in like New Orleans. Like,
Nolans, yeah.
he has this.
Now what you have here is a ghost resistant window.
You need those ghost resistant windows, don't you? Anyway, so storm windows are a big thing because you're keeping the historic windows.
Yeah.
Of which
We are. Marvin, don't even talk about it. Marvin, we're keeping the windows, don't worry.
Yes, you are currently experiencing the one pane window right now.
Right, it's pretty rough. Right here we have one pane window, and so I use it as my refrigerator. I have the beer that we're going to be drinking this evening lined up along the window because it's iced over.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2 degrees maybe outside, I think, right now. A little bit cold.
It's a little chilly in this room.
It's very cold in this room. It's very drafty because we have two single pane windows that are huge, and we need to get storms on them. So we'll be talking to Matthew. About that.
You could hop on over here. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So with that, you'll have storms, and you having storms will now allow Matthew to take those windows down and to start refinishing them.
Correct. So what we'll do is we'll use the storm exactly. So the storms are up on the bottom row right now, and we expect Matthew to come in, take every single window down, hand refinish everything. Replace any damaged wood that's there, and then put them back in as good as new, and also replace some of the frame that's around them.
Mm-hmm.
No, he doesn't go much further than the frame that's around that window.
Yeah, so there's some wood damage. The house had been vacant for so long, and now we know that the house had a lot of vines and things on the exterior as well. So that's about it. You are waiting for the plans to be finished, so then that way we can then get framing, HVAC, and plumbing in. So then that way it's kind of like you can just roll through and get the next things. But we need to have plans first. We need to follow along with the permitting process to be able to get everything else going. So that's kind of where we are with the house right now, is that we had been trying to get the envelope of it tightened up. You're working on it, and then we're dealing with the permitting process.
Right, so we have like breaking news, and we've been getting screamed at by our production team. If you can do that in text, which they can apparently. So the next 2 people we need to acknowledge are Vahlkamp and descendants of Vahlkamp. I know we had a hand Peter write to us in the comments, and Bradley, I don't know if you were the
I think it was an Emily. Is there
might have been Emily, that's right. Yeah, so anyway, I had another hand Peter reach out to us, Bradley, but what a honor to have you and a privilege to have you on this show.
Now he's asking a question.
All right, so yeah, okay. I just wanted to say thanks for joining us. All right, now we can go on to his question. All right. I've been playing catch up. Why do this? Right. Okay. So we anticipated your question, Bradley, and I would just refer to you to our bios because I did cover that.
Yeah. So, but it is the question of why there are so many old houses in St. Louis.
Yeah.
So why cover and why talk about the history and why talk about the renovation of this house? Now, when you went into purchasing this house, you kind of sort of knew that this was a house that was someone important to the Lemps, and the people who had lived there before thought that it had some tie-in with AB. But as we got further into it, we discovered this story of Henry Vahlkamp. And there wasn't a lot of information at first, but the more that we dove into it, the more that we saw all of these connections of Henry Vahlkamp really making a difference with the Lemp Brewery. And if you're not from St. Louis, you don't really know what Lemp is. So through that discovery, we found out how important Lemp beer was to St. Louis, but not only to St. Louis, but Lemp beer went everywhere.
Yeah.
And they were one of the first to do it. And they were one of the first to do it because of the guy who built this house. And this is the only house that stands in St. Louis that he lived in.
Right. So I have a lot to add to that. I agree with all of that, of course. Totally agree with that.
Also, I'm just gonna chime in
Yes.
that Ed Hanpeter is Bradley's father.
Oh,
Ah,
okay.
So,
thank you.
that's
Sorry,
the-
it was an E. I couldn't remember if it was Emily or
You didn't
an
mean
Ed.
to call
Thank
Ed
you.
Emily. Sorry about that, Bradley. Well,
And he said that helps explain a lot.
Okay.
Okay, great. So, I don't even know where we were going with
That's
that now.
okay. We have another one from Lisa Evans, who's a great grandchild of Henry Vahlkamp. One of his many children, that was my grandmother. So Henry Vahlkamp had 13 children,
Yeah.
11 of whom lived in the Vahlkamp House, which you own right now.
Two, yeah.
The 2 other were born in his next house, the Lafayette House, which was a 22-room mansion that unfortunately no longer exists.
Yeah, well, we'll show you some pictures. Pictures coming up of the next 2 houses of
Right.
Henry
Right.
and his wife.
Do we have any other pertinent questions that we can
I don't see any questions. Our winter trade
Mold
starting.
the door, when are the trades
Yeah.
starting? What an achievement. Oh my gosh, you can't even imagine how much we thought the beginning of this, thinking
Yeah.
how many watch time hours people had to do to get to this point. We thought it was an insurmountable task.
Felt like Everest to me, that's for sure.
Right,
I felt
but
like
we're here.
I was looking up a big mountain there. So next things I'd like to talk about are where we're going next. So John Kinnaman asked the question, winter trade starting. Indeed, that is the next step. So
They're kind of sort of starting a little bit by little bit.
yeah, I don't know how far we're going to go into some of the troubles that are I think
I
we
mean,
can,
we
let
can
me
talk about-
tell you some of the stuff I'm struggling with here, John. I've got a flip.
John, we left.
I've got a flip of not a flip. I don't like calling them that because it's kind of flippant. But we've got a house that we're restoring and we're gonna turn around and sell to somebody that wants it, right?
We're renovating the
And
house.
it is a craftsman style,
Early grass.
early craftsman style, a beautiful house on Lafayette. The problem is that I cannot do both things. I cannot do that and continue with Vahlkamp at the same time. I can do videos and we can do small stuff, but we can't bring in the trades until we've wrapped up that other major project. So
We were all scraping windows.
yeah, we the
We
whole
were literally,
team.
all 4 of us were in on one Sunday or Saturday scraping
Exactly.
and film off of some windows to try to get you through this. So,
Right, so we need to finish that up, John, and we are working on it. I think we're 3 weeks away.
you always say it's
That's a little inside joke with us. All right, if John's watching, hopefully it's here.
Right, so,
He's in there, yeah.
right, so once that's done, we'll put it on the market,
Yeah.
and then we will hopefully sell it. Anyone who knows the real estate market is still a little questionable, but it's really interesting that the house that you chose as a flip, before you even chose the Vahlkamp house,
Yeah,
is actually 2 blocks away from the home that he
Yeah.
built and moved
it's
to
right next to the
afterwards.
Lafayette home he built, like really close,
And
within walking
so
distance.
there's a lot of little connections on your story and the Vahlkamp
Yeah.
story too.
I feel like a lot of touch points. But yeah, so that's going. It's not like we're having too much of an issue. We're really close. The plastering is finished now, and we are on to trim and paint, and then we hopefully sell it to a loving owner.
So anyone who's looking to move to the St. Louis area, there is a beautiful 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath house that
Yeah.
still has 4 original stained glass windows in it. A lot of original woodwork. It's huge. It's over 2,000 square feet. Brand new systems. New roof
Yep.
on it too. So the house had never had central air or central heat before
Yeah.
you came along.
Exactly. So Vineyard Farmhouse, hey Vineyard Farmhouse, thanks for reaching out.
January 18th, is that on our calendar?
January 18th is on our calendar. It's on the production calendar. And if it's not, it's going on there.
So Matt, now that we've started this process,
Yeah.
where do you see the channel going?
Right. So I think we've got a lot to do. I think we obviously are committed to covering the Vahlkamp restoration. I mean that's basics, table stakes. That's happening. We're not giving up on that. We're never going to give up on that. That's going. We're going to finish that. But what's been so interesting is we've gotten out there and we've learned about this history, and I can't stop telling historical stories. I don't know, what do you think?
I feel like we keep stumbling on more and more history as we go along.
Yeah.
So it's the connection to Henry to St. Louis, the connection of the Lemps in St. Louis, the connection of things that are going along with the story. So as we learn about how politics was done in the early 1900s, you kind of had to use local gangs to really get politics going. And so then it's talking about Irish gangs in St. Louis. Then it's talking about Prohibition. It's talking about the temperance movement. So we could kind of
we went to
continue on.
the Lemp Mausoleum, and we got a taste for what was in Bellefontaine Cemetery, and we started to see all of those opportunities there with Dan Fuller. So what I'm hinting at is, in addition to the Vahlkamp restoration, and this is the Lemp Mausoleum that we're talking about here. So we were able to visit the Lemp Mausoleum and go in. We were given special permission to get a private tour from Dan Fuller, who is there. Dan gave us a tour of not only the Lemp Mausoleum, but also some of the many Lemp and Vahlkamp graves that were there in the Bellefontaine Cemetery, which is a very famous and gigantic cemetery in St. Louis. It has pretty much everybody famous that
and
was.
the who's who
Yeah.
of who's died
Yeah.
in and around St. Louis.
It's a big one.
Dan was so sweet to give us that tour and to walk us through, and he kind of also sparked some more things that we could go into. I mean, there's the steamboat captains. He was like, "Oh, well, let me know when you get into steamboats," and it's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna go home
Well,
and
let's just
start
go
reading
do
about
some.
steamboats."
Let's go do some, brews about steamboats.
Right, and anyone who's from Missouri knows Samuel Clemens or Mark Twain.
Yeah.
And anyone who's been to Hannibal knows it. And so it's kind of like there's that slow descent into understanding and getting into the steamboat stuff. So I would like to say that through the renovation of the house,
Yeah.
you and I will probably continue down the history of St. Louis and Prohibition and steamboats and anything else that makes St. Louis relevant
Yeah.
to today.
Well, we do know we love this city, St. Louis. We love this community on Cherokee Street. We certainly love history, and we love architecture. So there's a lot of that in St. Louis. We have a platform, we have a channel. Why not go out and tell more of these stories and let others participate in that? So
We have a question here on the storm windows. Someone is asking, are they internal storm windows? They are not internal storm windows. So the house had external aluminums when you purchased it.
correct.
They're really old. They were really kind of
Terrible.
tricky. They were really crappy. So internal storm windows would make sense. The only problem is then the original window themselves would be exposed to the weather. They'd be exposed to these cold temperatures, and if I could get a camera on these windows, there is literally a sheet of ice that has formed on the inside of your windows here.
Yeah.
So that would be happening to your original windows that are 140 plus years old that you are
Right.
refinishing.
Yeah. So we also priced out. We priced out the really nice handmade storms that were made of teak
Sapele.
or sapele, and it would have been ruinous. Like it would have wiped out my whole budget right up front on just storm windows. It's like $100,000, $150,000 for storm windows, something like that. I mean, for storm windows, guys, that's just that just ruined me. So we need to finish this project. We can't just have really nice storm windows like nothing else. And we had to have something happen. So, and we were leaking heat and cold. So we went with dark storm windows. You can really don't even notice compared to the ones that they had on the other one. I mean, when we first
Right.
got
Now
it.
from my understanding, they are all storms except for the bottom two that are in the front parlor because they are half rounded windows. They can't do that
We
in
don't
an
understand
aluminum.
that.
They can't do that in a vinyl. So from what I'm understanding is that those will be wood.
Right. So
Those will be custom made.
we're gonna have custom made on for the front too. Like
the
we're-
front two bottom ones because they are half rounded. The other two are an arched.
Yeah.
So those will be just fine.
Right, so we're gonna be careful about the look. We're gonna try not to impact it. And then Marvin, one of our really special watchers, our audience members, has made many suggestions on colors that has really just ignited for both Nikki and I a lot of interest in going into historical depth on what colors would have been appropriate. So we are not necessarily going to go dark on any of the trim. We may, we may, but we're going to go as historically appropriate as we can within taste. So working with Marvin on some SketchUps. You've done some stuff in the modeling that we don't really have queued up in the video.
Marvin said thank you.
You're welcome, Marvin.
No, thank you, Marvin. Thank you for. And Marvin's an author too. And he sent me a chapter of his book, and I was at 5 a.m. up reading it. I found it to be magical. So I feel like when I first met Marvin, I came back out of the room and I said, "Have you ever met Mozart?" I think if you ever met Mozart as a young man, that's probably what it would feel like. And so that's what it feels like with Marvin. He's a special guy and really smart. So anyway, Marvin is challenged, literally.
He said, "Aww."
Yeah.
Marvin jerked us out of our place and smacked us in the face with some trollery, which was well placed. And then he was kind enough to me to share with us some drawings, and hopefully we can get that full color one, Marvin, that you drew. I don't know if you deleted the layers or not, but I would love some of those colors back because we were talking about that. So Marvin is a talented man, and he's helping us with some incredibly detailed pictures of the cornice that is hard to do.
So we have another question.
Yeah.
Hey, baby. By the way, hi.
Hi,
How you
Nate.
doing? We'd love to hear from you.
Yes,
You're so sweet with
special.
all of your comments. So thank you very much.
Marvin said he's working on it now.
Right on, man.
Thank you, Marvin. Get on that. We're expecting it by 9 o'clock tomorrow,
No, we're
which is
not.
also Christmas Eve. Thank you.
Marvin's got a lot.
So Nay Baby says, can we ship the Lafayette house to Iowa? LOL. Unfortunately, that house no longer exists. I really
No, your Lafayette
ours.
house. Matt's Lafayette house.
Oh, the flip? Yeah, sure. Okay. All it takes is time and money. I can't wait. I'm sure it's going to show up on a brew at some point. I know we're going to be in it.
Baby, I would love to ship that house to Iowa.
Will
If
you
somebody
buy
would
it? Or what
would
we
you
need to
buy
sell it for?
If we're talking about that flip now, it's been a joy. I got to show you guys videos of it. It's been a mess. Like, I don't want to get the video cameras in there right now because it's just so gross. But we're getting close to getting it clean enough to show off to you. And I think you'd be interested in some of the craftsman
Oh, yeah.
stuff.
So
right?
it's an early craftsman. It's not overtly craftsman, but it has all of the stained glass in it, and it has the dark wood, and it has these beautiful faceted glass French doors in the front parlor. And
Yeah.
you walk in and you see the beautiful staircase, and it goes up, and then you go in the front parlor, and it has the fireplace and all of these French doors that close, and then even the cabinets that go between the front parlor and the dining room, those have stained glass in them
It's
too.
awesome. It's full of stained glass.
And it's one thing that here in St. Louis, what they do to these old houses is that they will try to do open concept. And I get it, and I know open concept is a huge thing, but I think it's
It's run its course.
It's run its course. The tide is changing, especially after COVID.
Totally.
People want to be able to close off doors and close off things just to have some private time.
Open offices are done too, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
I think they're
No,
gone too. They're
Let's
done.
talk about all of the junk mail and all of the books and all of the notes that I've scribbled that are just all over the place, and it looks terrible. And I will be the first person to admit that I'm probably not the cleanest cook. So I don't really want to have my dirty dishes and my dirty stove on display for everyone as they're eating the holiday meal.
Yeah.
So in this house we only took down one wall,
Yeah.
and it's between the dining room and the kitchen, just to give you a little bit of the flow that goes through.
Yeah.
But it still stays very true to the house itself.
It does. I think, we had to take down one wall because we were just so chopped up. I mean, it was impossible to kind of live. It was such a small kitchen, actually. It was the problem. So we'll take you through it. That's a promise eventually.
Okay.
And eventually we'll get you in there and we'll show you some of the really neat architectural details, especially before we sell it, right? Hopefully we'll sell it. And if not, it's going to be the world's coolest craftsman rental house.
Right, Airbnb coming to you soon.
Right.
Clarinet Boy 82 says we had a Lemp beer depot here in Springfield from 1885 or 86 until they closed around Prohibition.
And isn't that incredible? I've heard from people all over the country with Lemp beer depots and ice houses. It's amazing. They had them everywhere. I've got to go get some numbers on that.
So I think we're far
we're
enough
gonna do beer.
in. We are 45 minutes in. Now we obviously haven't finished.
This is a marathon, not a sprint.
But we are tasting lagers. So this is a white lager. It's a hazy lager, so it's going to be just like the one that we drank. This one's from Schlafly, which is a local St. Louis brewery company.
That's the
I mean,
word.
they've been around. I want to say
They've been around for like since the 80s, I want to say. Maybe they were one of the first microbreweries, maybe the 90s.
They were one of the first. So St. Louis is known as one of the great microbreweries
Yeah.
of the United States. I'm not sure if you know that, but we are. We have tons of microbreweries. There's 2 down the street.
Oh man, they're like you could throw a stone and hit a
And
microbrewery
hit a
in St. Louis.
microbrewery.
It's probably similar to Wisconsin, right?
With cheese?
No, where's the Milwaukee? Come on, it's like
Milwaukee.
where's the
Okay, thank you, Pat. By the way.
Yeah, I mean in Milwaukee they're everywhere too. It's the same deal. It's like Anyway, I'm gonna finish this Swiggle here.
I will say, I've had this white lager. No, I've had the white lager in a Schlafly, in one of their tap houses.
I don't have any fingernails.
Do you need some assistance?
This is a crisis.
Do you need help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. This one has less of a bite to it. It's not as bitter. I don't know what it looks like in a glass, but we'll.
We're gonna pour it out and see. You can't really. It's not really civilized to drink a beer from a can.
Well, I apologize. So this one is, you can see hazy, just like the Zwickel.
All right.
We can see a color difference.
It's a nice head there.
One is more golden
Yeah.
than the other. This one is definitely hazier.
Okay. Full disclosure, I'm not a big fan of white beers. Like, I think they taste like flowers. You don't want flowers in your beer. But anyway, I'm gonna smell it. Let's just see if it tastes like a Blue Moon, which is what I think of as, the standard American white beer.
I could see that.
It doesn't taste anything like I thought it would. It actually tastes really good.
It's not bad.
I should get that more often now. I've been avoiding that like the plague because they put the word white in it.
Well, you could put a little orange slice in it. So Boris
Oh, Boris.
Lycenia?
Oh, man. Luxembourg. Wow,
from
cool.
Luxembourg
Hey, Boris.
asks, how long do you guess it will take you to finish one of the parlors?
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's gonna be months.
Well-
Do you
Well,
know-
Boris, we really don't know, but we have been meeting with people to talk through like approaches, techniques, from plasterers to drywallers to different people, and I think once we're able to break out of we get this other thing that we've got, so the project we've got rocking. finished. I want to say we'll have the framing in rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have the trades. So the way this works for us is I can't think of the parlor being done. I have to think of like, I know I'm a linear thinker. I'm sure you're a far smarter man, right? But I have to think of what do we have to do to get there. So we have to get all the trades done. And that is truly the right question. Trades are like the basics. So we have to get water in, we've got to get electricity in, we've got to get HVAC so that the water doesn't freeze in. To do all of that, you have to frame. You have to finish framing some pieces at least to hold the HVAC systems up and to show, basically lock in where everything goes as far as wires and things in the walls.
Well, heights of plumbing
Is
a big thing. So you have to have all your fixtures picked out before they really start running the plumbing, so they can know how tall your vanities are going to be.
Exactly.
Or your fixtures, your toilets, and whatnot.
So I am hopeful, and I'm really nervous about saying this in front of people, but I'm hopeful by mid next year we're finished with all of that trade stuff, and we're ready to really go on drywall and plastering, and then finishing that up, we start to really rock on the finishes and cleaning up all the trim and blending that in nicely, replacing any pieces. I mean, I think a year and a half.
Yeah, so Twist was just asking as well if you have a target.
I always have a
month and
target.
year.
I think it would be
It
would be perfect for me to have them in by Christmas of next year for a lot of things. But it's a matter of trades working, it's a matter of money working, and it's a matter of materials.
I'm just nervous about committing because we already have paid for the trades. That's not a problem. It's like the trades are paid. I'm not waiting on any funding on that. It's more like I don't want the same trades to leave the property that I need to finish up to go start on this other thing. We need to get that finished
Yeah.
up.
So the flip property, the Lafayette property, is the one that has to get done first.
So anyway, we're gonna finish that up and we'll move on. I'm targeting move in year and a half from now. That's what I'm hoping. Year and a half.
And it would be
I don't want to
ideal for
overpromise.
Christmas, but
I just don't even know. It's gonna be a lot of work. You've seen it.
it's a big house too. It's 4,000 square feet inside. The carriage house is about 12.
Yeah, I'm super nervous about it, honestly.
It's a big house, everybody. Clarinet Boy is talking about Craftsman Kitchens. I feel like Craftsman Kitchens is really when kitchens came from being an auxiliary thing, so either being hidden in the basement or hidden outside to really being inside.
So true.
So it was kind of trying to figure out how to get a normal kitchen to fit inside a house where people had to actually cook for themselves, and it was like the middle class thing to do was to cook for yourself. So yeah, the kitchen in this one isn't bad. It's pretty nice. There's some really nice finishes that you've put into it. So yeah.
I love it. I can't wait to show you. It's got this gorgeous green tile as a backsplash.
You picked it up.
It's gorgeous dark green tile that I think goes nicely with the stained glass in the house. We've left all the floors original, which I love. All of the trim we could possibly protect, we protected and kept. The house was in rough shape when we got it in some ways. Certainly hadn't been touched since it was built. Not much had been done.
Yeah.
The basement was flooded. A little bit of stuff going on that we had to fix. So we got things remedied, and that's what happened.
We don't have to have our toilets picked out. So let's talk about the Medallion now. I feel like we've talked a lot about the house.
I'm trying to read Clarinet Boys. Well, we'll just wait. Go ahead and go to that.
We'll go to that. Okay, so we managed to bring the section that came loose during the Medallion takedown and flip over. So we have that piece here. We have kind of some tools to talk about while we're going through it. We also have some of the pieces that Phil found while he was doing his metal detecting. But in terms of the medallion here itself, there are what we're pretty sure was gold leaf. So as we kind of pick apart some of what's happening here, and some of the pieces, we can see the really metallic kind of luster that's going on here, which I think is the gold leaf. But as we go into some of the other sections here, like in the leaves, it's very, excuse my dear, we're seeing a lot of
this camera back closer.
Of cobalt blue that's happening in here as well. And on the leaf, and even some like dark green. So we're not really sure if at some point they had painted parts of this different colors. So at this point, it's maybe 3 layers of paint that's on here. Some of this is not healthy paint, so we know that. And it's thick too, so you can really bust through some of the stuff is being gentle. But you can tell, especially here in some of these leaves, that there was a lot of, as we call in the horticulture word, some venations.
Yeah, so some cool things about this that we've been discovering is that I think restoration is an option. So we've been talking like we have to mold it, or we have to do something else. This big one, this huge one, this is just a piece of it, one small section of a huge circle. This piece is the only part that came off, and that could be easily cemented back in because it broke it didn't break even, it just came apart on the seam. So we have one of our audience members. He's not super kind to us. He said he screams at us all the time.
He said the first
Whatever.
time.
He knows how to do these medallions, and has been making suggestions and really helpful. So we've been piecing out that, and we went and did some research, and we think this one could be actually no problem saved because it can be joined back up on the weld lines, which is where it failed. And the flowers, as you can see where Nicki's working there, the flowers cover up the seam. So you can easily fix that. The other thing about that one piece right there is it's warped. It actually was warped from the beginning. So that's one of the reasons why it came off, was it was sticking up and was out of alignment. So the idea would be we could put that back together and put a wooden backer on it. This is what the audience member, I can't remember the user's name, so I'm sure that person's not,
Vintage Antiques?
can't be watching us. Anyway, what I think we could do is we could put that one back up with a wooden backer, perhaps, if we could get it to be secure. The other ones that are smaller, I have found a vacuum mold machine. So instead of scanning, scanning, we did it, and I'll show you guys some of the results, but it moved so fast, it's so intricate, and the paint does not return the light signature. So I think I know I can do the wood, Caleb. If Caleb's still watching, he may not be. But
Thank you.
if you are, that's great. But I can scan that door piece, no problem, but it's this paint, this metallic paint that just absorbs all the light.
There we go.
So the scanner's not working, as I kind of suspected it wouldn't. So vacuum molding for the small ones, restoration for the large ones. The large one is where I'm at this point. That's the scoop on the medallions.
Yeah, so the thought is to possibly scan each piece
Yeah, we
individually.
could. So if we could take it apart and disassemble pieces, we could easily scan smaller pieces. But we'd also have to maybe put some sort of reflective material that could there's some powder you can put on.
Oh, okay.
So you can dust it with some powder that is reflective, and it helps you get a signal back from the scanner. Lots to do. It's very technical. I had to learn a lot, and I still have to learn a lot. So, but it's cool. It would be really great if we could get a 3D model.
Yeah. See, cleaning this off and trying to get
Okay.
it and all the nitty gritties, I could sit here for forever.
Yeah, do you guys want to see a slideshow of the pictures we got from the
Oh my
Vahlkamps?
goodness, yes.
I think we should totally do that next. And
Because it
Nikki,
shows the Lafayette house that he had
Nikki, I'm gonna need
too.
your help on this slideshow.
Okay, I'm coming over. Hold on. Okay, I'm getting distracted.
All right,
Yeah.
we're wrapping up the medallion set. There we go. So tell us
Ooh.
what you see in there.
So this is Hulda. Hulda is one of the oldest daughters in the Vahlkamp group, and Hulda is the direct line to one of the ancestors that we talked to here in St. Louis.
Yes.
So Scott. Hulda was Scott's grandmother,
Yeah.
and she actually lived with them for multiple years after her husband has passed. And so that was an image of Hulda, they think in Germany, and there they are with a bunch of puppies. And they just look
Isn't that
so
great?
happy. And I think the one thing that I see in a lot of the photos of the children is just how happy they all looked.
Oh, it's so good.
And it's so adorable. So this one, we think Hulda is the oldest. She's there kind of in the middle or third from the left. And unsure if those are her cousins or any of her other sisters. So next photo, you know these guys.
You know, this handsome man, this 20-year-old on the left-hand side is the young Vahlkamp when he was, or close to when he was going through his adventures out west. So episode 2 of Henry Vahlkamp, Life and Times of Henry Vahlkamp in the Brew would let you see that story. But anyway, that's a picture of him in his 20s, and then the picture on the right was him with his wife Carolyn.
Mm-hmm. And I like the one, I think that's one of the most genuinely happy photos
Totally.
that he is. He's kind of just like
Okay.
sideways looking at you with a stogie. So.
JD's moved on, so let's
Anyway, so
I mean,
JD,
I
it's
feel like
fine.
you're sending us
It's
some
okay. So these are photos of Hulda. So the one on the left is Hulda with, I assume, one of her sons. I think it's absolutely adorable. She looks
That's Charles, right?
so happy. I don't know. Charles was her older brother.
that's so good.
So I want to believe that's probably one of her sons.
That poor guy never thought he'd be on YouTube.
On YouTube
and that,
in those
it's-
swim shorts.
I think it's
I love her
great.
little pink, I love her little pink socks and how they like built up the mound next to her to
I
make her
love it.
taller.
Yeah, they made her taller so she could be close to that giant.
And then that's also Hulda on the right later on in her life.
That's great.
So we have,
Bradley Handpeter said some of these he hasn't seen before.
oh my goodness.
Oh, that's great.
Bradley, we cannot wait to show you more of the family. We have lots of stuff. It feels weird because we're not of the family, but we feel like we
Wow.
are caretakers of the family.
Well, we're the storytellers, the the bards that come along and sing the family some songs. That's what we are.
Yeah.
And then we'll,
So-
get out of your way later.
So the next photos we have are the houses. So the one on the left is the Lafayette house. That was a 22 room mansion. That's not 22 bedrooms, but 22 rooms.
Look at the size of that thing.
Huge house. Unfortunately, it no longer exists. The one on the right is the one that Vahlkamp lived in until the end of his days. He died in that house. Just across Highway 44. It didn't exist then, but it's just across Highway 44 now. It doesn't exist anymore. The street still exists, but that house was torn down because of the highway that was put in.
There's a SLU, St. Louis University building on there.
Yeah, so SLU took over the Lafayette house. The last house he was in, the Copeland house, that one was torn down because of the highway, we do believe.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I feel like I drive by that area.
He kind of went. It was
every
like
day.
it was like this, right? He went. Well, he started pretty. It was.
Everyone likes it's so huge.
It was
I
gigantic. Well, he had 13 children, everybody. 13 kids. When he moved to
Yeah.
that house, Henry, his oldest, was an architect. and he still had 2 more kids.
He had 2. Yeah. He almost had 2
father.
basketball teams. Almost.
I mean, really. And so, and I know Martha and Irma, I think, lived with him. They never got married. But they lived with him and Caroline.
Yeah.
Until the end. So it was really like Henry and like a random slew of children that lived in this house.
Right. Yeah.
So
I just think of it as like this: kids or maybe teenagers everywhere.
I mean,
kids,
it was
teenagers,
adult
yeah.
kids. So Henry had his first in what was it, 70?
Oh man, where's the timeline? Oh.
I want to say it was like 75, and then he had his last in like 1901. So he had
Quite the spread.
quite a spread. So he quickly discovered that he couldn't have 11 children in the Vahlkamp House.
Greg
and
Hamill had a comment?
And needed more.
Sorry.
And Bradley said 14 kids, actually 3 with his first wife and 11 with his second.
Yeah, so there were 2 that died as infants. So it kind of skews the numbers a little bit.
You're right.
It's
You should
depending
mention
upon
them.
how many children he actually fathered and how many children actually made it past their first year. There were 2 that didn't make it past their first year. It was Henrietta and then Alma.
Yeah.
I do believe. One with Helen, his first wife, and then Alma with Caroline.
Wow, I got Greg Hamill asked a question. Maybe repaint the medallion in a scannable color and scan. I agree. I think instead of painting it though, Greg, thank you for that. And Greg, really good to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. Scannable powder. Maybe some dusting so that we don't have to take yet another layer of paint off later. But paint too is an option. Also disassembling it and taking it to a shop that specializes in scanning is next on the table. But right now I'm kind of excited about restoring it.
Yeah. So it's salvageable. We have the pieces can go back together, and we can come up with a creative way to do that. JD, do you have any pictures of the cornice that we had talked about? I know we're kind of transitioning.
There it is, one down.
And so we had talked about earlier about the cornice. So that's that wooden piece there at the top. There is a gutter that runs through that, and it's copper. Now, we had talked to a few roofing guys, and they said you've really got to get someone who knows what they're doing to put that copper gutter in there to be able to make that work well enough.
Yeah, that's an intimidating job to most gutter guys. Most of them just check right out when you say we've got a box gutter with copper lining. They'll say we'll do everything but that, and that's what happens. So.
And so the woodwork that's on the front of that, it almost becomes more detailed the longer that you look at it. And so as a person who is trying to make a 3D model, I've looked at it, and then I've had to build so many layers and so many things. I'm sure Marvin, you know about this too, to make it look close to what it actually is. And so the thing with that is that in the Victorian times, they would have painted that 5 different colors. So then it's just a matter of trying to figure out, okay, what colors do you paint it? So we know what the front door is going to be. We know what the storm window color is going to be. We can do about the trim.
Marvin said he's drawing it right now.
Perfect, thank you, Marvin. And so, we used a little bit of the Sherwin-Williams historic colors to try to figure it out, to see what colors would go well.
Yeah.
But that's it's a big project because we have to actually get a lift to go up there.
That's right, it's a big deal. We're gonna have to get a lift. We have to let it thaw. The Midwest needs to thaw out, so it'll probably be the springtime.
So next week?
Yeah, it's gonna be 60 degrees next week.
He said he'd share a picture if he could, but...
Oh, I know, Marvin, don't worry about it.
We'll show it next time.
Marvin's awesome. Well, next time we'll do something, and I even want to have Marvin on and let him show it. Okay.
And clarinet boy, whose name is Matthew, we know.
Oh, okay.
What is it?
So Matthew said the dental work on the house makes me think it's an Italianate, which
it
we
is.
know it is.
Oh, it certainly is, Matthew. And it does remind one of Italy. So if you go over to Italy and you look at their styles, boy, it's the same. I mean, it's just made out of brick instead of,
Stucco.
I guess they have actually rough brick on the back in Italy and then a lot of stucco.
And Marvin said that he can get in touch with Ken Roginski, I believe, who's a historic paint color specialist.
Great, thank you. That's great. We'll take that for sure.
And everyone's also very shocked about the 14 children. We have some people that also had 14 and 15 and
Three
in their
families in
grandparents
Yeah,
and great
three parents had
grandparents.
14.
It's a lot of kids, guys. So Caroline, I want to say Caroline started having kids when she was 22 or 23. And she took over her older sister. So it's a little bit of family history. Henry married Helen Hay, and then Helen Hay passed, and then Henry married Helen's sister, who was 14 years younger than Henry, a few months later. And so Helen had 2 children that survived. She had 3 children total. And then Caroline married Henry and then continued to have 11 other children, maybe 12.
That's great.
It's kind of hard to keep track. I mean, I can hardly keep track of 2 children, let alone that many. And so I think Caroline started having children in her early 20s and then didn't stop until about 43 years old.
Late pregnancy.
And that was in 1901.
Yeah, that was a risky one.
So she's a very lucky woman to have that many children, to have given birth to that many children, and to have survived
into her old age.
I mean, she was in her 80s.
Do we have a picture?
She
Let's get back to that slideshow. We have a
Oh
picture
yeah,
of
let's go
those
back to our
2.
slideshow. Do we have any more after the houses?
Let's get there. You go.
We
The
have-
2 of Henry, because you
We
can
have
see
Heinrich.
him and his wife there, Caroline. I think, right? Or is that Caroline?
I'm not positive.
We don't know for
Then
sure.
we have
We think so.
Helen.
All right.
Oh, is there more JD? I feel like
Any more?
there's-
Okay, that's
Is
it.
Okay. Perfect.
Great. So I have one last thing I think that we can do here, which is read
Ooh.
this
We
letter.
also have your favorite episodes and
Oh,
what's
yeah.
next.
You're right.
So you
So
don't
the-
have to do
Okay.
those, but just let
Producer Megan just reminded me that I'm skipping a little part of the show that we've worked really hard on and
Well,
we don't
hold
want
on.
to.
Since we're already going rogue here, why don't we're going on to our next
Yeah, we're gonna get another one.
our next beverage.
Okay, another beverage. Okay.
We
Right.
have not consumed
So
all of
let's.
these.
Yeah, we need to get drinking here.
So you purchased a Pacifico.
Right, this Pacifico. This has nothing to do with St. Louis, but it has everything to do
But
with
it has
Mexico.
everything to do with St. Louis.
Everything to do with Mexico, and Cherokee Street has a huge number of Mexican restaurants and Hispanic folks living here. So I got a Pacifico in honor of that Hispanic heritage of Cherokee Street. And I think this is one we definitely should drink from the bottle. Yeah. Here, let's do cheers.
You have to cheers.
Cheers.
So this is just a great,
This is a after you mow the lawn beer.
yeah, so it has a bit of a spice to it.
That's
I would say
it's grassy.
it's not hoppy.
No. It'll cleanse the palate.
It's
you know?
It would be great if I was eating some tacos right now.
Mm.
You want some barbacoa?
Man, I would love some tacos. They're all closed because it snowed.
There-
No,
I believe it. No,
Everything was
No.
closed this week.
Yeah.
I mean today.
it's too cold to have your taco stand.
There's a lot of snow on the ground for St. Louis at least. Okay, and then so we were going to talk about favorite episodes.
Ooh, the favorite episodes that we've done. so
Yes,
far.
Nikki. Before I do my last thing here, sorry. So you had some favorites.
So I did. I will say that one of my favorite episodes was the windows. The windows was kind of a huge thing for me personally because I wanted to make sure that you could save these windows. These windows had been here 140 years. Some of them had been redone over the time. But it was such an integral part of the house. It's like the eyes of the house, as people say, that I wanted to make sure that you could keep those. And I knew somewhere that they could be saved, that they were salvageable. But
That was our first filming day with the
it
window guy.
really was.
With
Well, it was.
Matthew.
I mean, we filmed with a different window guy.
We did. We filmed.
That's the
with
one
Tiffany.
that was our first day with.
So I want to say we've gone through a few subs on this.
We've burned through some subs already. But
It's a big project. I mean, people come in and say, "Oh yeah, I can do it," and then they suddenly realize, "I can't do it."
Wasn't the quote like?
So the original quote was $102,000 for the windows. That was to refinish all of the interior windows and then also to build new storms out of sapele wood. So the storms were as expensive as redoing the current windows.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it. So sacrifices have to be
I
made.
wanted to. I really did, but
So in walks Matthew, the window guy, as he calls himself. And I mean, he's like, if it were the 50s, he'd be a little Grace-her guy coming in with his leather jacket and his jeans rolled up and his little cigarettes and his...
man, look at that guy.
And then
He's so cute.
he is...
Look
I'm
at that
sorry,
guy.
Matthew.
And I'm married to JD, but he's just so darn adorable.
And Matthew-
I'm married to Megan. He's adorable.
Okay,
JD,
the four of
I think he's
us,
attractive.
4 out of 4, we all think he's adorable. He's amazing. He has these wonderful anecdotes, and
Oh, he's a folksy tale.
he does have a folksy tale about everything, about how his dad was a painter and whatnot, and his hair. I mean, can I tell you about the fabulous hair that we have within the whole group? You have Matt, who has very nice hair, if I do
Thank
say so
you.
myself. And
A little
then
salt and pepper.
You have Megan who cut it
And
today.
Megan.
Megan gave me a
he
haircut.
literally cut his hair today.
Yeah. We look like
Hold
we
on.
have a budget going.
There's Megan attempting
Where's
to
Megan? There
hi.
she is. That's great. There's
JD, who
Oh, let
has
me this JD.
no hair.
Let me this JD. There's JD.
I have
Hi.
this wonderful head of hair. That's all you're gonna see of it.
And this is JD running the board here.
With a cup of coffee. I don't
Doing
know.
all magic.
Yeah, and then I love it.
That'll work.
Very
So
good.
the Windows was a great episode.
Right, so the Windows was a great episode also because the day that we filmed his second time there, they were starting a demo. And I remember being in the kitchen talking about the windows, and they had already thrown off the first air conditioning unit from the roof, and it was
Yeah.
a big thing. We were like, hey guys, when you push it, like, let it go. We don't want anyone to fall with it.
Right.
It was a big thing.
I put a sports camera on that thing,
We've got it.
And it did something.
and it didn't start recording.
It didn't really do what we needed it to do. But then I remember, see, there
There's
they
a sports
are.
cam on that. There's a sports cam on it. Wouldn't it not have been an epic shot if that would have
And
come
they
out?
just teetered it over. It worked perfectly.
It was an epic shot even without the
It was
sports
great.
cam. It was epic.
But there was another unit that had to be tossed off the roof. And I had forgotten about this, so I went inside to talk to the window
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
Megan was there
What's the
with
thing
me.
saying goodnight?
Okay, good night,
Yes.
Mr. Faye. Thank you so much.
See you,
I know we're
Tris.
going a little.
We're gonna wrap
a
it
little
up
longer.
here
We will
shortly. We
soon.
know we're not gonna.
Anyway, so I'm on the first floor in the kitchen area, back at the house, and I'm talking with Matthew, and Megan's there filming us, and all of a sudden we just see this shadow come across the windows, and then we hear a thud, and I just remember Matthew reacting, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot to tell you, we're like throwing stuff off.
Seth
the roof.
Fires said bye guys.
Oh,
Yeah.
good night,
Good night.
Caleb.
Bye.
Hope you guys have a good evening. I hope you guys are staying warm for Pete's sakes, too.
Need this
Mhm.
last thing.
So I think that was my favorite episode just because there was so much going on. The windows are so important to the house. And then we kind of had like a funny little, just like, just the air conditioning unit falling on the ground and having that reaction. I think that was great.
That's awesome. And my favorite was the epic medallion and then the Thanksgiving one. So, yeah, I think I did a pretty special, well, I did one that was really close to my heart about a project that we're doing in South Carolina. And we did it over I did the video over Thanksgiving with my brother-in-law. So, yeah, that was That was a good one. That was my favorite so far. Hopefully you got the chance to watch that. If you haven't, go look, check out our Thanksgiving Day special.
I thought it was great. I'm a real estate agent that believes in sustainable living, and I think that's a great example.
We're building a steel building out in the woods in South Carolina. So if you like alternative housing and stuff like that, go check that brew out. It's on Thanksgiving special. So
before we finish this up, there's only one way we can really finish this.
Right, you don't need to do that.
We don't need to use it. So we have a good old Budweiser. So Budweiser was introduced in 1876. Someone else quote me differently.
Something like that.
And it was the reason why we have any Anheuser-Busch products today, because it was the beer that put them on the map.
Yeah.
And it's the beer that continues on today. It is the lager beer that continues today.
Would you say it was the king, perhaps?
It's the king of beers.
Right.
So thank you, Anheuser-Busch.
Right
Thank
on.
you, Homer Ziegler, for getting AB through Prohibition.
Right.
Who
exactly.
married
Homer.
We're
We're gonna go do some of that story too.
He married Hulda Vahlkamp.
Right.
So thank you for that.
Homer got him through Prohibition. Thank you, Homer.
Yeah. So
Appreciate that, Homer.
this king of beers is to you. So to finish up this episode, we want to read an excerpt
Okay.
from
Yeah.
one of Henry Vahlkamp's grandchildren about Christmas.
I'm going to cut out a little bit of this as an ending. Let me read Christmas Eve with Grandpa and Grandma Vahlkamp. So this was written by a
It's by Herbert.
Grandson of Henry. So I'm going to skip to where he describes it. And this is Christmas at the Vahlkamps. I was 10, I believe, when I realized that Aunts Martha and Irma spent many hours in the second parlor putting up a huge tree. The ceiling was over 12 feet high, decorating it, including, in the first years of my memory, candles, which had to be lit and constantly monitored in the event of fire. Good grief, that's insane. Thank goodness there never was one, I'll say. Underneath the tree were several scenes. I especially remember a complete alpine village scene with mountains, chalets, a horse-drawn sleigh with passengers and men and women of all ages walking in the street. In addition, there were always the traditional creche, which is the
nativity scene.
I
didn't know this, but it's a nativity scene.
The traditional creche. All the beautiful under-the-tree decorations had been brought from Germany by our grandparents, who in the 1920s went to Europe almost every year. We were invited for 5 o'clock, over 40 of us. So there were over 40 of them. When all were present and had greeted our grandparents, Aunt Martha opened the sliding doors to the second parlor. The grandchildren went in first, and we shouted with delight at what we saw before us. Then Grandpa and Grandma distributed gifts to their grandchildren, one at a time, before their trip to Germany. We were asked what one gift we wanted. My request was always for toy soldiers of any kind, made as only the Germans could in those days. I wish that I had kept them, for they would be priceless today. Who knows what happened to them? I don't. At the ringing of the bell, the adults went into the dining room for dinner. The table with several leaves added could seat 20 plus. If there was room for grandchildren, the eldest, were privileged of joining the adults. The rest of the grandchildren ate at card tables in the first parlor, while the adults feasted on turkey with all the stuffing, mashed potatoes, gravy, cranberry jelly, and traditional food items. The younger set were served turkey sandwiches, milk, and cookies. I do not recall pie ever being served at these Christmas Eve gatherings. It was always German cookies, 6 or 7 different kinds, taking several weeks to prepare, such as furnaces, I can't say these.
Pfeffernuses, Sprinkle,
Pfeffernuses.
Lebucan, Speculatus. Speculatus sounds
What?
like a
That
bad.
sounds weird.
Sounds like a bad, but like speculous cookies or like pfeffernusse. If you've ever had those, you need like a special little
That sounds
like,
awesome.
cookie imprint. They're fabulous
Okay,
little
anyway,
German cookies.
after dinner, the card tables were removed and the adults joined us as we sang Christmas carols. First, the German ones, O Tannenbaum, Still Nacht, and the familiar ones in English. Usually, a church group came to sing on the porch, and Grandma was ready for them with cookies. At about 8 o'clock, we said good night and went home, some of us to return at noon or Christmas Day for another smaller gathering. My mother had no car, but some kind uncle would drive us home. The three of us had our gift exchange when we got home, pretty tired after the exciting time with all the Vahlkamps. My memory fails me on what happened after Christmas 1930. Grandpa died on January 3rd, 1931. He had lost much of his fortune in the 29 stock crash, so Grandma's quality of life changed. We gathered at her home. I recall every Christmas Eve through 1941. She died in September 18th, 1942, but there was no gift exchange. A tree, yes, but no sumptuous spread. The younger cousins, of course, may have little or no memory of those unusual, festive Christmas Eves of the 1920s, so perhaps this brief account will be helpful. October 1994, Herbert Schroeder.
It's a fabulous story.
And there you go, Christmas at the Vahlkamps. I think it was a mostly happy time. We will be I wanted to just say some things before we left here. We have been working extremely hard to pull this show over the YouTube partnership monetization line to get a few pennies from YouTube. But we did it, and so we need to take a short break, a really short break on this show. Just a few weeks. We're going to keep coming out with brews. So don't worry, we're going to keep coming out with the content. We're going to take a break on the house. We need to finish up this project on this Craftsman. We have a couple other things we need to get done. Then we're going to come right back with house content. I'll keep coming back with brews. So we're not going to leave you hanging. But I wanted to say that. We're going to take a short break just for mental health reasons and all the other things we got a lot going on.
But before that,
Yep.
we do have a special. A week from today, next Friday, will be the final installment of the Lemp Vahlkamp family, of which we are calling A Tale of Two Families. Now, we have already started recording some of this.
That's
we just
right.
need to kind of edit and put it together, and thankfully with a lot of the input that we've gotten from the Vahlkamp family, we'll be able to kind of give a better account of who Henry Vahlkamp was, what he did with his time, how he was with his family. So just like what Matt was talking about here with Christmases, we have more information and more letters about that. So we'll be able to finish out the story to the best of the information that we have at this point, with the commingling of Lemp and Vahlkamp. So business, family, tragedy, all of that stuff. Come with your tissue boxes.
Right, so
It
we're going
is
to finish
really,
that. We're gonna finish that story. It's crazy. I feel humbled by it. I don't know if we've got a lot to tell, and we've got to finish a lot of that story up. So we've got a lot to do before next Friday. But yeah, come back for that. We'll finish that story, and we'll take a little break from the.
Yeah, so we'll still have some brews. We'll talk about some of the things that Mansard Media is going to be doing. We'll be finishing up the Lafayette House in 3 weeks. We've been saying that for 6 weeks, but 3 weeks, we'll be finishing the Lafayette House, putting it on the market. If anyone you know wants to move to or live in St. Louis in a beautiful house, let us know. It will be on the market then. And kind of some of the things that we're doing in terms of the creation of Mansard Media, because Mansard Media is officially a business. It is officially something that we'll be doing, helping people.
Yeah, we've got some very exciting projects that we're working on right now, actually. We're going to come out with some some things. Product that we are very excited about. We're developing that with some scientists and some folks that are going to help us with marketing. So some products coming your way and some other things, not just to you, but to the whole world. I mean, we're not just marketing to the people that watch our show. We're a media company, so the idea is we're going to actually develop some media campaigns. So yeah, we got to pay the bills, but and finish our work. But we have been so privileged to be joined by such a great audience so far, and we are not going to let you down. We're going to come back with some great content.
So thank you to everybody who has dropped us questions
Yeah.
and who have been with us kind of
Awesome participation.
since
We
the
had some
beginning
people.
too. I know Matt was a
True
little worried.
friends.
Matt was a little worried no one would ask us any questions.
I was really worried about
For
it.
sure that people would. So thank anyone who is still here with us since the beginning of this episode and or the beginning of our YouTube.
Yeah.
We can't wait to show you more about all the wonderful things that St. Louis has in store for you.
Right. More history, more architecture, more house coming your way in the future. Thank you for joining us on Legends of Lemp.